Welcome, friends. Are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then I shall tell you the tale of the Black Vein Colliery and the horrors that stirred beneath Cornwall's frozen earth in the winter of 1912. Cornwall, a land of rugged cliffs and ancient legends, has always been a place where the line between the natural and the supernatural blurs. Its mines, carved deep into the earth, are as much a part of its history as the waves that crash against its shores. But these mines are not just places of toil and industry. They are places of whispers, of shadows, of things that move in the dark. The miners of Cornwall have long spoken of the Tommyknockers, small goblin-like creatures said to haunt the tunnels. Some believe they are protectors, warning of danger with their eerie knocks. Others say they are harbingers of doom, luring men to their deaths. The Black Vein Colliery was one such mine, its name spoken in hushed tones even among the bravest of miners. A century before, in 1812, a catastrophic collapse had buried 47 men alive. Survivors of the disaster spoke of strange sounds before the collapse, knocks, whispers, even laughter. The mine was sealed, left to the ghosts of its past. But in the winter of 1912, a new company reopened the Black Vein, lured by rumors of untouched coal seams. They assembled a crew of night shift miners, men desperate for work in the biting cold of a Cornish winter. Among them were young boys, barely old enough to hold a pickaxe, brought along to earn a few shillings for their families. The older miners, hardened by years underground, took it upon themselves to protect the boys, warning them of the dangers both seen and unseen. The veterans had one piece of advice they repeated like a prayer: don't acknowledge the knocks. But desperation has a way of silencing caution, and the crew descended into the earth, their davy lamps casting flickering light on the cold, damp walls. The first night was uneventful, though the air in the mine felt heavy, oppressive. The men worked in uneasy silence, the only sounds the clink of pickaxes and the occasional cough. The older miners kept a close eye on the boys, their faces grim. As the hours dragged on, the temperature seemed to drop, the cold seeping into their bones. Then, as the clock struck midnight, it began. A faint tap-tap-tapping echoed through the tunnels, so soft it could have been mistaken for the settling of the earth. The men paused, their breaths visible in the frigid air. "Just the rock shifting," muttered old Jack, the foreman, his voice gruff but unconvincing. The others nodded, eager to believe him. But the tapping didn't stop. It grew louder, more insistent, until it seemed to come from all around them. It wasn't random either. It had a rhythm, a pattern that mimicked their own drilling. The younger boys laughed nervously, trying to mask their fear. "Just echoes," one of them said, his voice trembling. But the veterans knew better. They worked faster, their eyes darting to the shadows that seemed to dance at the edges of their lamplight. By the second night, the tapping had changed. It no longer mimicked their drills. It mimicked their heartbeats, slow and steady at first, then quickening, as if mocking their rising fear. Shadows flitted across the walls, too small to be human. The men whispered of seeing figures, hunched and skeletal, darting just out of sight. It was Peter, the youngest of the crew, who found it. He was scraping away a vein of obsidian shale when his pickaxe struck something hollow. Curious, he cleared away the rock, revealing a jagged symbol carved into the wall. It was crude, almost childlike, but it radiated a malevolence that made his skin crawl. Behind the symbol was a hollow packed with tiny yellowed bones. "Animal bones," someone said, though no one believed it. The air grew colder, the shadows darker, and then the lights went out. Panic set in as the men fumbled with their davy lamps, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. That's when they heard it. A chorus of voices, fractured and distorted, echoing through the tunnels. The voices weren't human. They were their own, twisted and wrong, as if the mine itself was mocking them. The Tommyknockers swarmed in the dark. They were skeletal, their coal-black skin stretched tight over their bones. Their eyes glowed like dying embers, and their mouths twisted into grotesque grins. They moved with unnatural speed, their clawed hands scraping against the walls, leaving trails of ash. The men screamed, their cries swallowed by the mine. The Tommyknockers didn't attack outright. They toyed with them, whispering in their own voices, mimicking their screams. The tunnels groaned as the creatures clawed at the support beams, the sound of splintering wood echoing like gunshots. The older miners tried to shield the boys, pushing them toward the exit. But the mine was a labyrinth, and the Tommyknockers knew it better than they did. One by one, the men disappeared, their screams cut short. Peter and old Jack were the last. They stumbled through the darkness, the walls closing in around them. The air was thin, each breath a struggle. The ceiling cracked, sending showers of dust and stone raining down. "We're not going to make it," Jack wheezed, his face pale with terror. But Peter refused to give up. He dragged Jack to the elevator, his hands trembling as he fumbled with the lever. The elevator creaked to life, the gears groaning in protest. As it began to ascend, Peter allowed himself a flicker of hope. But then, he heard it, a soft, high-pitched giggle. He looked down. A tiny hand, black as coal, was gripping the lever. The elevator stopped. The last thing Peter saw was a sea of glowing eyes staring up at him, and the last thing he heard was the chorus of giggles rising from the shaft below. The Black Vein Colliery was sealed again, this time for good. The company claimed it was due to structural instability, but the locals knew better. They spoke of the Tommyknockers, of the men who had disturbed their slumber. And if you ever find yourself near the old mine, listen closely. You might hear it, the faint tap-tap-tapping of bony fingers against stone. But whatever you do, don't acknowledge the knocks. For once you do, they'll know you're there, and they'll never let you leave.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.